So, it's Friday. A lot of us are going to be going out to dinner tonight. I am wondering, are prices going to go up because of the tariffs?
Ooh.
If you buy a drink, are prices going to go up here in Arizona because of the tariffs, the trade war between the U.S. and all these other countries? How is it going to hit our state? And then
Affect you?
Is it going to hit our wallet?
Yeah. Well, we're going to try to figure that out.
I think it's important. A lot of people making reservations, going out tonight, maybe going out tomorrow, and they're saying, okay, I see all this stuff happening. Is it going to hurt my wallet? And can I not order an appetizer? Because if I can't order an appetizer and a drink, I'm going to be ticked.
Well, joining us right now is Steve Chucri. Did I pronounce it right? Chucri. Why did I had it a second ago. He's the president of the Arizona Restaurant Association. Apologize, Steve. Because restaurants are kind of the front line for a lot of this and might be where the rubber meets the road. As I understand it, Steve, most restaurants operate on pretty thin margins to begin with.
That's right. And Larry, I've been married 30 years. My wife can't even get my last name. So you're just fine. You're just fine. Look, I'll tell you, gentlemen, this is the first time I've had the good fortune of being in this job almost. And this is the most serious threat we've seen by way of tariffs. You might remember about 10 or 12 years ago, it was the lime issue coming out of Mexico. The limes overnight just shot through the roof. But this is a whole different ball of wax. And you're right. Will this impact menus? Not necessarily right out of the gate, but if this is a long-standing tariff issue, yes, sadly, we will have no choice but to have to push those to, menu price increases.
Okay, so Steve, if Trump imposes a 200% tariff with Europe, will champagne, other alcohol prices go through the roof? And are restaurants prepared for that? And how do they prepare for that?
Yeah, it's actually more than that because, first of all, a tariff like that is extremely high, as we can all agree. And we've actually gotten calls to the association this week from outside this state saying, look, we come to Arizona every year at this time to enjoy your food and your wines and your alcohol. Are you going to be able to still have them available? And that is not that is actually not any kind of poppycock or anything else. That is legitimate. We've actually had a handful of calls saying, hey, will this impact me if I come to your state? So it's a very real issue.
Where are the calls coming from?
I'm sorry?
Where are the calls coming from?
I think that was from the Midwest. We have 2 or 3 from the Midwest, one from even California, a couple within the state as well. But, it's one thing to say you're going to have to really push this cost up on alcohol, but be able to the alcohol may not be able to be available. I mean, these between the distributors and everything else, it may be even more challenging to get the alcohol. So you may not have the opportunity to get your favorite cocktail with the entree you go to a restaurant to get each and every time. And gentlemen, I will tell you, oftentimes the person will forego having alcohol if they can't get their favorite cocktail. They'll just say, hey, we'll go without.
Oh, along those lines, is it at the point where some of your members, the restaurants around town, will they have to literally change menus because of either an inability to get something, which would be a necessity, or just driven by cost? I'm thinking of something like avocados, which I believe all come from Mexico. I mean, maybe no guacamole at some places.
Yes, in a Mexican restaurant that would be hard to do, but where it's more a side item than it is a main entree item, yes, that absolutely can happen. But it even goes further than that in the context of you not even being able to use it. Let's use eggs, for example, right? Now eggs are on almost everything. And what we've seen with the shortage of eggs and those issues, you're going to, in some cases, take certain menu items that are heavy in a ingredient that you no longer can get easily. You'll just take that that item off the menu altogether. So it's very real.
Steve Chucri is joining us, president of the Arizona Restaurant Association. We're talking about the tariffs and how it's going to affect your experience at a restaurant. So back to the eggs. How are breakfast restaurants absorbing the cost?
Ooh.
I think right now everyone's holding their own, but I will tell you we are starting to see some menu items disappear temporarily. So to your listeners, I would say please be patient with the restaurants. We're going to utilize every mechanism available to going to raising prices on menus. And yes, while some restaurateurs say, people expect that to happen when you have tariffs like this, we're the beneficiaries of discretionary income. You're going to pay your rent or your mortgage than your car payment, student, loans, and everything else along those lines. And at the end of the day, what money you have left, you're going to go out and use it in a restaurant. So we can easily be pushed to the side because of that cost basis alone, and we hate to see that. That's why I don't think you're going to see a reflex action by restaurants to automatically just raise menu prices to try and withstand it. It'll be the last thing we do.
So, Steve, when inflation went up, and I remember talking to you about it, how restaurants had to raise their prices, and those prices never went back down. My question now is tariffs. If they do go into effect, because it's on, off, I have no idea what's good, 50%, 20%, 200%. If tariffs are on, and the restaurants have to raise their prices, will those prices ever go back down?
I think they could. I think you have to remember we are such a competitive industry, right? And that if you're so overpriced that it's going to be more expensive to go to your restaurant than maybe a competitor's, people are going to go to the competitor if the food quality and the service is the same. So when you're talking about inflationary pressures that have been going on for some time now, for the past 3 years, that's a whole different game altogether. But if you're talking about these tariffs, which we don't know how long they're going to go on for, if we see relief and hopefully they're temporary, then yes, I think you will see menu prices call back to normal.
All right. Steve, thank you. We wish all of your members and all the local restaurateurs the best during these times, because we know it can be difficult.
It's always good to be with you, and make sure you guys go out this weekend and take your significant others.
There you go. Yeah. Thanks. And support the restaurants. Support the local ones as well. The people who, again, we say might be right on the fringes. And, I have friends that work in the restaurant business who tell me this idea that everyone who owns a restaurant is rolling in it. They're like, dude, this is, not only is it a hard business,
it's brutal.
Again, the margins are what they average around 3 to 5% margins, which means the cost of your food goes up. There goes all the profit.
The stress to run a restaurant is through the roof. I've never seen anybody, because I've known a few restaurant owners, I've never seen one without gray hair. I'm not kidding.
Has a lot of extra time on their hands.
No, because it is a job that you are doing every day, all day. And so I am interested in, and I told you this yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm interested in going to a restaurant and seeing if they're going to be as crowded as they used to be.
Okay.
Because even when we were talking during bad inflation, horrible inflation,
everybody was
especially in
complaining.
Phoenix, 13%, people still went out and spent.
There was a line out the door. You couldn't get a reservation on a Friday, Saturday night.
Are we going to see with our own eyes a slowdown at the restaurants? That's the big question.
Because that would be like an obvious sign to you.
Yeah. I mean, you got to look for signs.
Thanks for watching Outspoken with Bruce and Gaydos. Tap to watch more from KTAR News and click the button in the middle to subscribe.